Jake Morrison sat in the cold metal chair and stared at the 7 alien faces looking down at him from their high platform. The Galactic Council chamber stretched out like a massive dome above his head, filled with thousands of different species from across the galaxy. The air smelled strange, like burning metal mixed with something sweet that made his nose itch. For 3 hours, Jake had listened to the same complaints about humanity. The tall, gray-skinned Veltar counselor named HFY spoke in a voice that sounded like grinding rocks. His words came through the translator device in Jake's ear, but the tone still carried the same arrogance that had filled this room for months. The human species continues to show dangerous expansion patterns, HFY said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. They build colonies too fast, reproduce without proper controls, and show aggressive tendencies that threaten galactic peace. Jake's hands tightened on the armrests of his chair. Behind him, he could hear the soft breathing of the other human delegates who had come to this meeting. Captain Nicole Foster sat directly behind him. Her military uniform crisp and clean, Dr. Greg Hamilton was taking notes on his tablet, the soft clicking of his fingers the only sound from the human section. The blue-skinned Andromedans nodded, their agreement with HFY's words. Their counselor, a female named Yuthara, spoke next. Resolution 847C is necessary for the protection of all galactic citizens. Population controls and territorial restrictions have maintained peace for 50,000 years. Jake felt something hot building in his chest. These aliens spoke about humans like they were discussing livestock or dangerous animals that needed to be contained. He had spent 2 years in this chamber, trying to negotiate fair treatment for his species, and every month brought new restrictions, new rules, new ways to keep humanity locked in a small corner of the galaxy. The younger species must learn. Patience, added the insect-like Rigelian representative, its mandibles clicking together. The Council's wisdom has guided the galaxy through countless conflicts. Humans have only been space traveling for 200 years. They lack the experience to make independent decisions. More nods came from around the chamber. The Kepler Federation representative, a tall being covered in what looked like silver fur, raised one of its 4 arms. Perhaps if humans showed more gratitude for the Council's guidance, these restrictions would not be necessary. Jake's jaw clenched so hard his teeth hurt. Gratitude, they wanted gratitude for treating humans like children who couldn't be trusted with sharp objects. He looked up at the massive screen showing Resolution 847C in 17 different languages. The words burned into his memory: mandatory population controls, no new colonies beyond the Sol system, all human military vessels to be registered and limited in number, and required Council approval for any technological development that could be considered potentially disruptive. The vote had already been taken. 3,000 species had voted in favor of the resolution. Only 12 had voted against it, and most of those were small species who barely had any influence in the Council anyway. The humans had been allowed to speak, but their words meant nothing when the decision had already been made. HFY's voice filled the chamber again. The human delegate will acknowledge the Council's authority and agree to implement Resolution 847C within 6 standard months. Jake slowly stood up from his chair. The chamber fell silent, thousands of eyes turning toward him. He could feel Captain Foster's attention like a weight on his back, and he knew she was ready to support whatever decision he made. Dr. Hamilton had stopped typing and was watching him with the same expression he wore when conducting important experiments. No, Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The translator devices around the room buzzed with confusion. Several aliens made sounds that their translators couldn't interpret, creating a wash of static and electronic noise. I'm sorry, Delegate Morrison, HFY said, his 4 eyes narrowing. The translation device may have malfunctioned. Please repeat your response. Jake took a deep breath and looked directly at the high platform where the 7 most powerful. Counselor Sut, I said no. The United Earth Federation formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We reject your authority, your restrictions, and your condescension. The chamber erupted. Thousands of aliens began making sounds that ranged from angry buzzing to high-pitched whistles. The Veltar counselors stood up from their seats, their gray skin darkening to almost black. The Andromedans' blue faces turned purple, and the Regelians' mandibles clicked so fast they sounded like machine guns. "This is impossible," Yathara shouted over the noise. "No species has ever voluntarily left the Council. The galaxy depends on unity and cooperation." Jake felt a smile cross his face, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile that Captain Foster wore when she was about to do something that would make enemies regret underestimating her. "Unity and cooperation," Jake repeated, his voice somehow carrying over the chaos in the chamber. "Is that what you call treating us like dangerous animals that need to be caged? Is that what you call making decisions about our future without caring what we think? You want unity, but only if we bow down and obey your every command." Zephyhiah's voice boomed through the chamber's speakers. "The Council has provided guidance, protection, and stability to the galaxy for millennia. Without our oversight, chaos would consume everything." "Your oversight," Jake said, picking up his briefcase from the floor beside his chair. "Your guidance, your protection. But never our choice, never our freedom, never our right to determine our own future." Behind him, Captain Foster and Dr. Hamilton stood up as well. The other human delegates began gathering their materials, their faces showing the same mixture of fear and excitement that Jake felt in his own chest. "The humans are making a grave mistake," called out the Kepler Federation representative. "They will regret this decision when they face the dangers of the galaxy alone." Jake stopped walking and turned back to face the chamber. "Alone. You keep using that word like it's supposed to scare us. But we've been alone in this chamber for 2 years, watching you make decisions about our lives without caring what we wanted. We've been alone every time you treated us like children who couldn't be trusted with adult responsibilities." He gestured toward the massive screen still displaying resolution 847C. "You want to control how many children we can have, where we can live, what ships we can build, what technology we can develop. You want to turn us into pets that perform tricks for your amusement. Well, we're done being your pets." The chamber had grown quieter now, thousands of aliens listening to Jake's words with expressions ranging from confusion to anger to something that might have been fear. "The Earth Federation will maintain diplomatic relations with any species that treats us as equals," Jake continued. "We'll honor existing trade agreements with anyone who respects our sovereignty. But we will not bow down to a council that sees us as dangerous children who need constant supervision." Zephyhiah's voice carried a threatening tone. "The Council has ways of dealing with rebellious species. The galaxy has rules, and those rules must be followed." Jake's smile became genuine this time. "Then I guess you'll have to try to enforce those rules. But remember, you're not dealing with the humans. You thought you knew. You're dealing with humans who have decided they've had enough of being told what they can and cannot do." He turned and walked toward the exit, followed by the other human delegates. As they reached the chamber doors, Jake could hear Zephyhiah's voice echoing behind them, calling for emergency sessions and immediate action to prevent other species from following humanity's example. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss, cutting off the chaos in the chamber. Jake pulled out his communication device and opened a channel to Earth. "This is Ambassador Morrison," he said into the device. "Operation Independence is a go. It's time for President Carter to address the world." Admiral Kevin Walsh stood on the bridge of the UES Freedom and watched the massive cargo ship slowly turn away from the Regelian trade station. The ship's captain had received the same message as every other human vessel in the galaxy. "Come home immediately. No exceptions, no delays, no questions asked." "Sir, that's the last of the mining ships from the Asteroid Belt 7 facility," reported Lieutenant Commander Sarah Blake from her position at the communications console. "Captain Rodriguez confirms all valuable equipment has been loaded and they're ready for the jump to Earth space." Kevin nodded and turned to look at the massive view screen showing the space around them. Dozens of human ships were moving in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of the distant star. Some were military vessels like his own, but most were civilian ships, cargo haulers, passenger transports, research vessels, and the big mining platforms that had been extracting rare minerals from asteroids for the past 50 years. "What's the status on the hyperspace beacon network?" Kevin asked his operations officer, Commander Lisa Park. "We've shut down 47 beacons so far," Lisa replied, checking her tablet. "The Andromedans are already complaining that their trade routes are being disrupted. They're demanding we keep the beacons active for another 6 months to give them time to find alternative routes." Kevin almost laughed at that. The Andromedans had voted for Resolution 847C just like everyone else, but now they were discovering what it meant to lose access to human infrastructure. The hyperspace beacon network had been built mostly by human engineers over the past century, creating the fastest and most reliable travel routes in the galaxy. Without those beacons, ships would have to use the older, slower jump gates that added weeks to any journey. "Tell the Andromedans they have 72 hours to remove their ships from beacon stations in human-controlled space," Kevin said. "After that, we're shutting everything down and taking our equipment home." The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's engines. Kevin could feel the tension in the air, but it wasn't the bad kind of tension that came before. A battle. This was the electric feeling of people who knew they were making history, who understood that everything was about to change. "Admiral," called out his tactical officer, Lieutenant Colonel Mike Foster, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council station. It's marked urgent and they're requesting immediate response." Kevin looked at the flashing icon on his command screen. He could guess what the message said without even opening it. Demands for explanations, threats about consequences, probably some kind of ultimatum about returning to Council authority. The same kind of messages that had been flooding Earth's communication networks for the past 18 hours. "Delete it," Kevin said simply. "We don't take orders from the Council anymore." Mike's fingers hesitated over his console. "Sir, it's from War Marshal Vekvar of the Veltar fleet. He's demanding to speak with you directly." "I don't care if it's from the Emperor of the Veltar himself," Kevin replied. "We have our orders from President Carter. We're going home, and we're not stopping to chat with anyone who thinks they can tell us what to do." The view screen changed to show a tactical display of the entire sector. Red dots marked the positions of human ships, while blue dots showed the locations of alien vessels. Kevin could see that several alien fleets were moving toward human positions, probably hoping to intercept the withdrawing ships and force them to stop. "Sir," Sarah called out from her communications station, "I'm getting reports from our ships throughout the sector. The Kepler Federation is offering to escort our vessels safely to neutral space. They're also asking if we need any assistance with the evacuation." Kevin considered this for a moment. The Kepler Federation had been one of the few groups to vote against Resolution 847C, and their representative had publicly criticized the Council's treatment of humanity. They were offering help, but Kevin wasn't sure if accepting it would be wise. Earth was trying to demonstrate that humans could handle their own affairs without needing protection from other species. "Thank them for the offer," Kevin said finally, "but tell them we can take care of ourselves. If they want to help, they can stay out of our way and let us do what we need to do." The tactical display showed more movement as alien ships began positioning themselves along the human evacuation routes. Kevin could see that some of them were military vessels, their weapon systems powered up and ready for action. The aliens were trying to look intimidating, hoping to pressure the humans into changing their minds. "Admiral," Mike said, his voice carrying a note of concern, "the Regelian Consortium is sending armed escorts to shadow our cargo ships. They're claiming it's for our protection, but their weapon systems are active." Kevin's expression hardened. The Regelians depended heavily on human-operated trade routes and mining operations. Their economy would be severely damaged if humans stopped providing those services, and they were probably hoping to force the human ships to stay by making threats. "Send a message to all human vessels," Kevin ordered. "Any alien ship that approaches within weapons range will be considered hostile. We are not looking for a fight, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. The bridge crew began carrying out his orders with practiced efficiency. Kevin watched the tactical display and felt a mixture of pride and concern. The human fleet was impressive, but they were still outnumbered by the alien forces gathering around them. If shooting started, things could get very ugly very quickly. "Sir," Lisa reported, "we're getting a transmission from Captain Nicole Foster. She's leading the civilian evacuation from the Proxima mining complex. She reports that Veltar ships are trying to board her vessels for safety inspections." Kevin's jaw tightened. The Veltar were pushing to see how far they could go before. The humans pushed back. They probably thought that civilian ships would be easier targets, less likely to resist their demands. "Open a channel to Captain Foster," Kevin said. The view screen flickered and showed Nicole Foster's face. She was standing on the bridge of a massive cargo ship, her expression calm but determined. Behind her, Kevin could see her crew working at their stations with the same focused intensity that he remembered from her days as a military officer. "Captain Foster," Kevin said, "what's your status?" "The Veltar are demanding that we submit to searches before they'll allow us to leave." "The system," Nicole replied. "They're claiming that human ships might be carrying dangerous technology or weapons that could threaten galactic security." Kevin felt anger building in his chest. The Veltar were treating human civilians like criminals, searching their ships as if they were smugglers or pirates. It was exactly the kind of treatment that had led to humanity's withdrawal from the Council in the first place. "Captain, you are authorized to refuse all boarding attempts," Kevin said. "If they try to force their way onto your ships, you have permission to defend yourself with whatever means necessary." Nicole's expression didn't change, but Kevin could see the determination in her eyes. "Understood, Admiral. We'll handle things on our end." The channel closed and Kevin turned back to the tactical display. More alien ships were moving into position, and he could see that some of them were forming what looked like blockade formations. The aliens were trying to trap the human ships, to force them to negotiate or submit to Council authority. "All ships, this is Admiral Walsh," Kevin said into his communication system. "We are returning to Earth space as ordered by President Carter. Any attempt to interfere with our withdrawal will be met with appropriate force. We're going home, and nothing is going to stop us." The response was immediate. Human ships throughout the sector began moving with renewed purpose, their courses set for Earth space. The aliens could threaten and posture all they wanted, but the humans had made their choice. They were going home, and they weren't asking for permission from anyone. Kevin watched the tactical display and smiled grimly. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were really capable of when they stopped trying to be polite and started doing what they thought was right. It was going to be an interesting lesson for everyone involved. War Marshal Thekvar stood on the bridge of the Veltar dreadnought, Eternal Dominion, and stared at the blue-green planet hanging in the darkness ahead of his fleet. Earth looked so small and peaceful from this distance. Nothing like the dangerous threat that the Galactic Council claimed it to be. 500 of the galaxy's most advanced warships surrounded his flagship, their weapon systems powered up and ready for battle. "All fleet commanders report ready for action," announced his tactical officer, a younger Veltar named Kethmor. "Our ships are in perfect attack formation, and the humans have not responded to our surrender demands." Thekvar nodded slowly, his four eyes scanning the tactical displays around his command station. The human homeworld appeared to be defended by only a few dozen ships and some orbital platforms that looked like they had been built recently. It seemed almost too easy, like the humans were not taking the threat seriously. "Open a channel to the human leadership," Thekvar ordered. "I want to give them one final chance to surrender before we demonstrate the Council's power." The main view screen flickered and showed the face of a human military officer. The man wore a crisp uniform with insignia that Thekvar recognized as belonging to Admiral Kevin Walsh, the same human who had been coordinating the withdrawal from Council space. "This is Admiral Walsh of the United Earth Federation," the human said, his voice calm and steady. "You are in violation of Earth sovereign territory. Withdraw your fleet immediately or face the consequences." Vekvar's skin darkened with anger. The human was speaking to him like an equal, showing no fear or respect for the massive fleet that could reduce his planet to ash within hours. It was exactly the kind of arrogance that had led to this confrontation in the first place. "Admiral Walsh," Vekvar said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered dozens of worlds. "I am War Marshal Vekvar of the Veltar Empire, commanding this Council peacekeeping force. You will surrender immediately and agree to return to Council authority, or we will take your planet by force." The human's expression didn't change at all. No fear, no panic, no recognition of the hopeless situation he was facing. If anything, Walsh looked slightly amused by the threat. "War Marshal," Walsh replied, "you're welcome to try. But I should warn you that Earth is not the same species you think you're dealing with. We've had time to prepare for this moment, and we're not afraid of a fight." Vekvar felt a chill run down his spine at the human's tone. There was something in Walsh's voice that reminded him of the old legends about the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, the ones that smiled before they attacked. "You have 30 minutes to begin your surrender," Vekvar said. "After that, we will open fire on your orbital installations and demand unconditional submission." The channel closed and Vekvar turned to his tactical officer. "Begin detailed scans of the human defenses. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with before we attack." Kethmer's fingers moved across his control panels, directing the fleet's sensor arrays toward the human positions. After several minutes, his expression changed from confidence to confusion. "Sir," Kethmer said, "the sensor readings are very strange. The human orbital platforms are generating energy signatures that don't match any known technology in our databases." Vekvar moved to look at the tactical displays himself. The human defenses were indeed unusual, with power readings that seemed impossibly high for structures of their size. More concerning was the fact that the human ships were not moving into defensive positions like any normal military force would do when facing overwhelming odds. "Perhaps they're using some kind of sensor masking technology," Vekvar suggested. "The humans have always been clever with their engineering." "Sir," called out his communications officer, "we're receiving a priority message from the hegemony of Kethlos. They're offering to mediate a peaceful resolution to this conflict." Vekvar's 4 eyes narrowed. The Kethlos had been rivals of the Veltar for centuries, and their sudden interest in protecting the humans was suspicious. They were probably hoping to gain some advantage by positioning themselves as Earth's protectors. "Tell the Kethlos that this is a council matter and they should not interfere," Vekvar ordered. "We don't need their help to deal with one primitive species." The 30 minutes passed slowly, with no sign of surrender from the human positions. Vekvar had expected to receive desperate pleas for mercy by now, but the humans remained silent. Their ships continued to hold their positions, and their orbital platforms continued to generate those strange energy readings. "Time's up," Vekvar announced to his bridge crew. "All ships prepare to open fire on the human orbital installations. We'll destroy their defenses first, then demand their surrender." "Sir?" Kethmer said, his voice carrying a note of uncertainty. "The energy readings from those platforms are still climbing. Whatever they're powering up, it's drawing massive amounts of power." Vekvar ignored his officer's concerns. The humans were probably just trying to look more dangerous than they actually were, hoping to scare off the council fleet with some kind of bluff. It was a desperate move from a species that knew they were about to be defeated. "All ships open fire," Vekvar commanded. 500 alien warships unleashed their weapons simultaneously, sending streams of energy and projectiles toward the human orbital platforms. The space around Earth lit up like a star as the most powerful military force in the galaxy demonstrated why the Council had maintained peace for 50,000 years. The weapons fire reached the human positions and struck what appeared to be some kind of energy barrier. Instead of destroying the platforms, the alien weapons seemed to be absorbed or deflected by shields that became visible only when they were hit. The barriers glowed with brilliant light, but they held firm against the massive bombardment. "Impossible," Kethmer whispered, staring at his tactical displays. Nothing can withstand that much concentrated firepower. The human platforms began to glow brighter, and Lekvar realized that they were preparing to return fire. What happened next would haunt his dreams for the rest of his life. Beams of pure energy erupted from the human platforms, but they were unlike anything in the Council's experience. The beams seemed to bend space itself, creating distortions that made it impossible to track their paths. When they struck the Council ships, the results were devastating. The first beam hit a Rigelian cruiser and simply erased it from existence. Not destroyed, not blown apart, but completely removed from reality as if it had never been there. The second beam struck a formation of Andromedan fighters and caused them to implode into tiny points of light. "Evasive maneuvers!" Dekvar shouted. But the human weapons were tracking their targets with impossible accuracy. Ship after ship disappeared from his tactical displays as the alien technology proved completely inadequate against whatever the humans had developed. "Sir," Kefmore cried out, "we're losing ships faster than our computers can track. These weapons are beyond anything we've ever encountered." Admiral Walsh's face appeared on the view screen again, but this time he wasn't alone. Standing beside him was a human woman in a white lab coat, her expression calm and scientific as she watched the destruction of the Council fleet. "War Marshal," Walsh said, "I tried to warn you. This is Dr. Amy Rogers, one of our leading scientists. She's been studying your technology for years, and she's developed some interesting countermeasures." Dr. Rogers stepped forward, her voice carrying the same deadly calm as Admiral Walsh's. "Your ships use quantum field manipulation for faster-than-light travel, correct? Our new weapons disrupt those fields, causing your vessels to collapse into quantum singularities. It's really quite elegant from a physics perspective." Lekvar watched in horror as more of his ships simply ceased to exist. The humans weren't just defeating the Council fleet, they were demonstrating technology that made the galaxy's most advanced species look like children playing with toys. "We surrender," Lekvar said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Please stop the attack." "We surrender." The human weapons fire ceased immediately, leaving the space around Earth quiet except for the debris from the few ships that had been destroyed in more conventional ways. Of the 500 vessels that had approached Earth, less than 50 remained intact. "You're free to leave," Admiral Walsh said, "but understand that this was just a demonstration. Earth will defend itself against any future threats, and we have weapons that make today's display look like a children's game." Lekvar nodded numbly and ordered his surviving ships to retreat. As the Eternal Dominion limped away from Earth, he realized that everything had changed. The humans weren't just another species seeking independence from the Council. They were something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Captain Nicole Foster stood on the observation deck of the research station floating in the Void Nebula and stared at the massive alien structure that her team had discovered 3 weeks ago. The thing was enormous, easily the size of a small moon, but it had been completely hidden by the nebula's dense gases until her ships had stumbled across it during a routine survey mission. "Dr. Peter Chun thinks it's at least 1,000,000 years old," said Commander Lisa Park, who had been assigned to help coordinate the research effort. "Whatever species built this, they were far more advanced than anything we've seen in the current galaxy." Nicole nodded slowly, her eyes tracing the smooth curves and impossible angles of the alien megastructure. The surface seemed to shift and change when she wasn't looking directly at it, like it was made from some kind of living metal that responded to observation. "Any luck figuring out how to get inside?" Nicole asked. Dr. Chen's team managed to open what they think is an entrance. "Yesterday," Lisa replied. "They've been running scans for the past 18 hours, trying to make sure it's safe before anyone goes inside." Nicole turned away from the viewing window and walked toward the station's command center. Through the corridors she could see scientists and engineers from a dozen different human colonies working together on the greatest discovery in human history. The excitement was infectious, but Nicole knew they had to be careful. Ancient alien technology could be dangerous, especially when nobody understood how it worked. The command center was buzzing with activity when Nicole arrived. Dr. Peter Chun stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by holographic displays, showing detailed scans of the alien structure. His hair was messy, and his clothes looked like he hadn't changed them in days, but his eyes were bright with the kind of excitement that only came from making revolutionary discoveries. "Captain Foster," Peter said, looking up from his displays. "Perfect timing. We've just finished the preliminary analysis of the interior spaces." Nicole walked over to examine the holographic images. The inside of the structure was even more impressive than the outside, with vast chambers filled with technology that seemed to defy the basic laws of physics. Crystal formations that generated their own light, metal surfaces that flowed like water, and geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. "What do you think it was used for?" Nicole asked. "Based on the energy readings and the configuration of the internal systems, I believe it was some kind of transportation network," Peter replied. "Not just faster than light travel, but something that could move objects instantly across galactic distances." Nicole felt her heart skip a beat. Instant travel across the galaxy would change everything for humanity. No more weeks or months of travel between star systems, no more dependence on the hyperspace beacon networks that the Council had controlled for so long. "Are you sure it still works?" Nicole asked. Peter's grin was answer enough. "We've detected power signatures throughout the structure. Whatever civilization built this, they designed it to last. The systems are still active after 1,000,000 years." Before Nicole could respond, an alarm began sounding throughout the command center. The holographic displays changed to show tactical information, and Nicole could see that ships were approaching the nebula from multiple directions. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Commander Sarah Blake from the communications station, "we're detecting incoming vessels. Multiple fleets from different species, all heading directly for our position." Nicole moved to the tactical display and studied the approaching forces. She could identify ship signatures from the Veltar, the Andromedans, the Regelians, and at least 6 other Council species. They were all moving at maximum speed, as if they were racing each other to reach the nebula first. "How did they find us?" Nicole wondered aloud. "The energy signatures from the alien structure have been growing stronger as we've activated more systems," Peter explained. "Any species with decent sensors would be able to detect the emissions from several light years away." Nicole realized that they were facing a critical decision. The approaching fleets probably wanted to claim the alien technology for themselves, either to use it against humanity or to restore their own failing positions in the galactic power structure. If the Council species gained control of instant transportation technology, they could use it to dominate the galaxy more completely than ever before. "All human ships, this is Captain Foster," Nicole announced over the fleet communication network. "Prepare for possible hostile contact. We are not giving up this discovery to anyone who thinks they can take it from us." The next few hours passed. Intense preparation as human ships moved into defensive positions around the research station. Nicole coordinated with Admiral Walsh back in Earth space, updating him on the situation and requesting additional support. The discovery was too important to lose, but the approaching alien fleets represented a serious threat to the small human force in the nebula. The first fleet to arrive was the Veltar, led by a ship that Nicole recognized as belonging to War Marshal Vekvar. The same Veltar commander who had been humiliated in the battle at Earth was apparently hoping to restore his reputation by seizing the alien technology. "Human vessels," came Vekvar's voice over the communication channel. "You are in violation of galactic salvage laws. Ancient technology belongs to the Galactic Council for the protection of all species. Withdraw immediately." Nicole almost laughed at the arrogance of the demand. The Veltar had just been defeated by human weapons technology, and now they were trying to claim legal authority over human discoveries. "War Marshal," Nicole replied, "you seem to have forgotten that humanity is no longer part of the Galactic Council. Your laws don't apply to us, and we don't recognize your authority over anything." More fleets arrived over the next several hours, each one demanding that the humans surrender the alien technology to them. The Andromedans claimed it belonged to them as the galaxy's financial leaders. The Rigelians insisted that their advanced engineering made them the only species qualified to study it safely. The Kepler Federation argued that it should be shared equally among all species. Nicole listened to all their demands and gave them all the same answer. The technology stays with the species that found it. If you want to negotiate for access, you can talk to our diplomats back on Earth. The standoff continued for 2 days, with more alien fleets arriving and the tension growing steadily worse. Nicole knew that eventually someone would lose patience and start shooting, which could lead to a battle that would make the fight at Earth look small by comparison. The breakthrough came when Dr. Chin's team finally managed to activate the transportation system. The entire alien structure began to glow with energy that could be seen even through the nebula's dense gases, and the space around it started to bend and twist in ways that made Nicole's eyes water. "Captain," Peter called out excitedly, "the system is responding to our commands. We can create transportation portals to any location in the galaxy." Nicole realized that this changed the entire strategic situation. With instant transportation, humanity could move ships and resources anywhere they needed them in seconds. No alien fleet would be able to threaten human positions if humans could instantly reinforce any location under attack. "Dr. Chun," Nicole said, "can you open a portal to Earth space?" "Already working on it," Peter replied, his fingers dancing across the alien control systems that somehow responded to human touch. Brilliant circle of light opened in space near the research station, and through it Nicole could see the familiar blue-green disk of Earth hanging in the darkness. A moment later, Admiral Walsh's flagship emerged from the portal, followed by a fleet of human warships that had been waiting for this moment. The alien fleets surrounding the nebula suddenly found themselves outnumbered and outgunned by human forces that had appeared from nowhere. Nicole opened a communication channel to all the alien commanders at once. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "humanity would like to thank you for attending this demonstration of our new transportation technology. As you can see, we no longer need your permission to go anywhere we want in the galaxy." Admiral Walsh's voice joined the communication channel. "Any species that wants to maintain peaceful relations with humanity is welcome to return to their home territories. Anyone who wants to try taking our technology by force is welcome to test themselves against the same weapons that destroyed the Veltar fleet at Earth." One by one, the alien fleets began withdrawing from the nebula. They had come hoping to claim ancient technology that would restore their dominance over the galaxy. But instead they had witnessed the birth of a new age, where humanity controlled the most advanced transportation system ever discovered. Jake Morrison's face appeared on Nicole's communication screen, transmitted instantly from Earth through the new portal network. "Captain Foster," he said with a smile, "President Carter wants me to inform you that the Galactic Assembly is ready to begin its first session. Representatives from 200 species have requested membership in our new alliance." Nicole looked out at the alien structure that was still glowing with ancient power, then at the portal showing Earth space where the future of galactic civilization was being decided. The massive council chamber floated in space like a crystal cathedral, its walls transparent and showing the stars beyond. Ambassador Jake Morrison stood in the center of the circular room, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, 12 different alien species sat in their designated seats, each one representing a different corner of the galaxy. Jake had been humanity's voice in this chamber for 15 years. He had negotiated trade deals, settled disputes, and helped maintain peace between species that had once been at war. Today felt different, though. The air itself seemed heavy with judgment. The Zephyrian representative rose first. Its body was made of living crystal that caught the light and threw it back in rainbow patterns. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "The human species has become a threat to galactic stability," it announced to the chamber. "They expand too quickly, fight too readily, and refuse to follow proper protocols. Jake kept his face calm, but inside he felt his heart racing. This was worse than he had expected. The Zephyrians had always been cautious, but they had never been openly hostile to humanity before. The Hive Queen clicked her mandibles together. A sound like breaking glass. Her insect-like form was covered in dark chitin, and her 6 eyes glowed with an inner light. The humans interfered in the Kepler dispute, she buzzed. They sent warships without council approval. They acted like they owned the galaxy. We were protecting civilian populations, Jake said, his voice steady. The mining operation was using slave labor. We couldn't just stand by and watch. You should have filed a formal complaint, the aquatic delegate gurgled from its water-filled tank. There are proper channels for such concerns. Jake almost laughed. The proper channels would have taken months, maybe years. By then, thousands of workers would have died in the mines. But he knew better than to say that here. These beings thought in terms of decades and centuries, not the urgent moments when lives hung in the balance. The ethereal collective's representative stood next. Unlike the others, it looked almost human, except for its silver skin and eyes that seemed to hold the depths of space. I have observed humanity for many years, it said in a voice like distant music. They are young, yes, impulsive certainly, but they have also brought great good to this galaxy. The cure for the void. Plague came from human research. The peace treaty between the Spiral Kingdoms was negotiated by human diplomats. Those actions do not excuse their aggression, the Zephyrian replied. In the past 10 years, human ships have been involved in military actions in 17 different systems. They claim to be peacekeepers, but they are really conquerors. Jake felt his temper rising. Every action we took was in defense of others. We've never claimed territory that wasn't freely given to us. We've never enslaved another species or stolen their resources. You don't need to, the methane breather wheezed through its environmental suit. You simply make other species dependent on your protection, its conquest by another name. The accusations continued for hours. The silicon-based life forms complained about human mining operations. The energy beings claimed that human technology disrupted their natural frequencies. The tree people said that human terraforming was too aggressive and damaged natural ecosystems. With each complaint, Jake felt the weight of inevitability settling on his shoulders. This wasn't really about specific incidents or policies. This was about fear. The galaxy's older species had watched humanity spread across the stars in just a few hundred years. They had seen human adaptability, human innovation, and human determination, and it terrified them. The Council will now vote, the Zephyrian announced. All in favor of expelling humanity from galactic society? One by one, the representatives raised their hands or tentacles or whatever they used to signal agreement. The Hive Queen's chitin plates clicked in approval. The aquatic delegate's tank bubbled with satisfaction. The methane breather's suit hissed agreement. Only the ethereal collective remained seated. Its silver eyes met Jake's across the chamber. This is a mistake, it said quietly. You are choosing fear over hope, stagnation over growth. History will not remember this day kindly. The vote is 11-1, the Zephyrian declared. Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council and banned from all Council-controlled space. All human colonies outside the Sol system must be evacuated within 1 standard year. Any human vessel found in Council space after that time will be destroyed without warning. Jake nodded slowly. He had expected this outcome, but hearing it, spoken aloud, still felt like a physical blow. I understand, he said. We will comply with the Council's decision. See that you do, the Hive Queen buzzed. The galaxy will be more peaceful without human interference. As Jake walked toward the exit, the ethereal representative approached him. I am sorry, Ambassador Morrison. I tried to speak for your species, but the others have let fear cloud their judgment. I appreciate your support, Jake replied, but maybe this is for the best. We've been trying to fit into a system that was never designed for us. Perhaps, the ethereal said. But remember this, the galaxy is vast, and the Council does not control all of it. There are other species, other possibilities. Do not let this defeat break your spirit. Hours later, Jake sat in his private quarters aboard the human embassy ship, staring at the communication device in his hands. He had to call Earth, had to tell his government that humanity's greatest diplomatic experiment had failed. But first, he recorded a message for the fleet commanders scattered across human space. "This is Ambassador Morrison," he said into the recorder. "The Council has voted to expel humanity from galactic society. All colonies outside Sol System must be evacuated within 1 year. This is not a request. It's an ultimatum backed by the threat of military force." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I know this feels like a defeat, but I've been watching these species for 15 years and I've learned something important. They're not stronger than us. They're not smarter than us. They're just older. And they've forgotten how to grow. We haven't. This isn't the end of humanity's story in the galaxy. It's just the end of the first chapter." As his ship turned away from the council station, Jake looked back at the crystal structure one last time. The other species thought they were protecting themselves by casting humanity out. Instead, they had just freed humanity from the constraints of galactic politics. They had no idea what they had just unleashed.